PPP fraud wasn't an accident. It was a design trade-off. They chose speed over verification. They chose mass relief over perfect control. And 5 years later, we can finally see what that decision actually caused. Because the money is gone. The headlines moved on. But the consequences didn't. It's been 5 years since the Paycheck Protection Program rolled out. At the time, it felt like chaos. Money moved fast. Rules were changing weekly. Nobody knew how long the shutdowns would last. Now we're far enough away to separate intention from outcome, relief from leverage, and survival from structure. PPP isn't a scandal story anymore. It's a case study, a real-time experiment in how systems behave under pressure. And the biggest lesson has nothing to do with politics. It has everything to do with how the system decides who counts. Chapter 1. What PPP was supposed to do. PPP stood for Paycheck Protection Program. The idea was straightforward. Keep workers paid so businesses wouldn't collapse. When COVID shut everything down, millions of small businesses lost revenue almost overnight. Restaurants, bars, gyms, childcare, transportation, local services. But expenses didn't stop. Rent still came. Insurance still came. Utilities still came. PPP was meant to act as a bridge. Not wealth, not profit, but survival. And to do that, the program had one priority: speed. Money needed to move fast or businesses would die waiting. That intent matters because without speed, the damage would have been worse. But speed came with a cost. Chapter 2. The design trade-off. PPP was built for urgency, not precision. It relied heavily on self-reported payroll numbers, minimal upfront verification, and lenders acting as the pipeline. Verification was often designed to happen after the money went out. That wasn't a mistake. It was a conscious trade-off. In a crisis, you can't maximize speed and accuracy at the same time. You pick one. PPP picked speed. And 5 years later, we can see exactly what that choice allowed. Chapter 3. Why fraud was predictable. Let's say this cleanly. PPP fraud wasn't shocking. It was predictable. Any program with massive funding, urgent timelines, limited upfront checks, and self-certification will attract abuse. That's not about bad people. That's about incentives. 5 years later, oversight agencies and prosecutors have made it clear that pandemic relief fraud was widespread. The estimates vary, but many official reviews suggest tens of billions and possibly over $100 billion in improper or fraudulent pandemic relief payments across PPP and related programs. Thousands of cases have been charged, sentences are still being handed down, investigations are still open. Not all fraud was caught. Not all cases were prosecuted. And that's another lesson. Systems don't correct themselves in real time. They correct themselves years later, if at all. Chapter 4. Forgiveness versus payback. The part most people miss. Here's something many people misunderstand. PPP was designed to be forgiven. Forgiveness wasn't a loophole. It was the goal. If businesses met program rules, mainly using funds for payroll and approved expenses, loans were forgiven. And the reality is, the vast majority of PPP loans were forgiven. That means most borrowers never paid the money back. That wasn't cheating. That was the program working as written. The enforcement focus wasn't on everyone. It was on clear misrepresentation, fake businesses, inflated payroll, and identity misuse. So 5 years later, we have a split outcome. Most loans forgiven, a smaller portion under investigation, and an even smaller portion prosecuted. That tells us something important. PPP wasn't about reclaiming money. It was about moving money fast, then cleaning up what could be cleaned up later. Chapter 5. Who went to jail and who didn't? 5 years later, enforcement has caught up. Well, partially. Thousands of individuals have been charged or sentenced in pandemic fraud cases tied to PPP and related programs. But let's zoom out. PPP distributed over $800 billion. So even thousands of cases represent a small fraction of total activity. That doesn't excuse fraud, it just explains scale. Large systems don't enforce perfectly, they enforce selectively. That's not cynicism, that's capacity. And here's the wealth mode insight. The system doesn't need to catch everyone. It only needs to discourage enough. Enforcement isn't about justice alone. It's about deterrence. Now, if this breakdown makes you think differently about systems, ownership, and how money really moves, make sure you like the video and subscribe. This channel isn't about hyper headlines. It's about understanding the rules before the next crisis hits. Because once you see the system clearly, you stop getting surprised by it. Chapter 6, the silent losers. Now let's talk about the group that rarely makes headlines. The real small business owners who still lost everything. Not scammers, not headline cases, but real people. Businesses that lived on thin margins, depended on foot traffic, relied on weekly cash flow, and didn't have perfect books. Some applied for PPP and got it too late. Some got approved, but the money wasn't enough. Some were denied. Some didn't understand the process at all. Not because they were lazy, because they were informal. And informality works until the system demands proof. Shutdowns didn't just pause these businesses, they disrupted habits. Even after reopening, costs were higher, labor was harder to find, customers didn't return the same. Debt stacked up, savings ran out. And many owners didn't fail, they were forced out. 5 years later, a lot of those businesses never came back. Not because they were bad businesses, it was because they were fragile when the shock hit. Chapter 7, what PPP really rewarded. PPP didn't reward effort, it rewarded structure. Businesses with clean books, payroll systems, accountants, existing bank relationships, they all moved faster. They applied faster. They were processed faster. They were forgiven easier. That's not favoritism, that's visibility. The system can only help what it can verify. And many small businesses weren't built to be verified at scale. Chapter 8, what the system learned and didn't. 5 years later, what did the system learn? It learned how to move money faster. It learned how to distribute relief at scale. It learned how to accept losses as a cost of urgency. What it didn't learn, how to protect informal businesses, how to prioritize need over proof, how to fix fragility at the bottom. Speed improved, but fairness didn't. And that's not a moral judgment, that's an observation. Chapter 9, the wealth mode lesson. Here's the real takeaway 5 years later. PPP didn't expose greed, it exposed positioning. In emergencies, the system doesn't ask, who's hurting the most? It asks, who can prove they exist right now? Proof means documentation, structure, visibility, systems. That's why motivation doesn't save businesses. Systems do. Chapter 10, what people can actually learn. This is the part that matters going forward. 1. Build structure before you need it. Formalize, separate accounts, track revenue, clean books. Structure feels boring until it saves you. Number 2, build runway. Most businesses die from lack of time, not lack of effort. Runway buys time. Number 3, don't build on one leg. One location, one platform, one client, that's fragility. Diversification is survival. Number 4, understand how systems think. Systems don't run on fairness, they run on verification and incentives. If you understand that, you stop being surprised. So here's the final thoughts 5 years later. PPP fraud wasn't an accident. It was a design trade-off. Speed over verification, relief over control. Yes, fraud happened. Yes, people went to jail. Yes, most loans were forgiven. And yes, many real businesses still died. All of that can be true at the same time. But 5 years later, the lesson is clear. In crisis, effort isn't rewarded first. Structure is. Build structure now, because the next crisis won't wait for you to catch up. This is Wealth Mode.